When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line.
I can taste triumph with the heart of a lion.
When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path. On the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline Passport and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, whenever we want to get updates and those things happening over in Lafourche Parish, person that we check in with is always Captain Brendan Mathern. Captain Mathern, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Keith.
We appreciate it. And I know we always like to talk about those things that we know that have come to fruition, but we had a little breaking news today happening over in Raceland. Tell us a little bit about what y'all had identified.
Yeah, earlier this morning, before 10 a.m., we had, we saw a lot of comments on social media about deputies rushing to somewhere in the Raceland area, and we put out a quick blurb to let everyone know that we were responding to a call of an individual having a firearm in a Raceland neighborhood, and we were able to get to the scene and take him into custody relatively quickly, and we have made an arrest in that case. That is going to be 33-year-old Randall Falgu, who you see here. He was arrested earlier today. Keith, the charges are pending for him at this time, so we can't give you the specific charges, but what we can tell you is essentially we responded to the neighborhood and Falgu was trying to approach someone in a threatening manner, fired a shot up into the air. So we're looking at potential charges, including use of weapons or illegal use of weapons or instrumentalities and aggravated assault. We'll have more information on that as it becomes available.
Well, we appreciate that. And again, thank you for letting us know. That's very much breaking news. Thank you, Jay. And so we want to make sure that we're always giving updated information. Appreciate you putting out the Facebook post about that. And for those people that were wondering what the officers were doing, that person is in custody right now. So great news on that. Let's talk a little bit about the response to something else that took place about the two men who were arrested for the traffic stop.
Yeah, we actually had quite a bit of proactive policing this weekend on just some, you hate to say routine traffic stops, because this one in particular turned out to be anything but routine. In fact, it could have turned really potentially bad for all parties involved. Thankfully, everyone was able to walk away. But what we had was at around 1:35 a.m. on Sunday morning, January 12th, a K-9 deputy had conducted a traffic stop in the Raceland area, just north or just between Raceland and Thibodaux. And what we found, at the intersection of LA 1 and 182. And they identified the driver as 52-year-old Ronald Ellis and his passenger as 57-year-old Sidney Poindexter Jr. Now, Ellis had an active warrant for his arrest, and he was immediately taken into custody. Poindexter, though, was acting kind of suspicious, and at that point, a Thibodaux police officer who was in the area arrived on scene and actually assisted as we were giving commands for Poindexter to exit the vehicle, take his hands out of his pockets. He put his hands in his pockets and firmly ground them there. Concerned that he might have a weapon or something, the Thibodaux officer ran over to Poindexter, took him into custody, and as the struggle kind of ensued, an object fell from his pocket, which turned out to be narcotics. And we were able to find that he had a firearm in his pocket as well. So that is what he had his hands in his pockets for. Thankfully, they were able to take the gun safely, take care of it. And ultimately, Poindexter was taken into custody without further incident. Both men face numerous drug charges. Ellis was booked on 2 counts of distribution of methamphetamine and a contempt of court warrant. Those were existing warrants on the meth distribution. He was also charged with possession with intent to distribute meth, as we found a large bag of meth inside the vehicle. He was also charged with driving under suspension and improper vehicle lighting. And Poindexter, meanwhile, was charged with possession with intent to distribute meth, marijuana, hydrocodone, fentanyl, crack cocaine, and heroin. In fact, he had all those variety of drugs individually wrapped in and all in one bag, presumably for distribution. He was also charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, illegal carrying of a weapon in the presence of drugs, and possession of drug paraphernalia and resisting an officer. So his bail is set at $376,000. Ellis's bail had not yet been set, but he's also being held as a fugitive of St. John Parish Sheriff's Office, and so he awaits transport there once he answers for his charges here.
Wow, so very interesting. And again, what appears to be a routine traffic stop can become anything but that. And as you mentioned, not only having a whole bag full of illegal narcotics, but a gun, and how we see all the time how those things can go badly, as you mentioned. So great job to Sheriff's Officer and to Thibodaux Police Department for really being able to handle that situation peacefully, because we're talking about 2 people with huge charges, both being previous felons.
Exactly, and you have a situation where you have, and both of these individuals were in their 50s. So you really don't know a mindset. You stopping somebody at 1:35 a.m. Turns out they have drugs, presumably, or they're at least charged with possession with intent to distribute, and they have a firearm on them, and not wanting to comply with simple orders like take your hands out of your pocket. So like you said, this could have turned very ugly very quickly. Thankfully, the officers involved fell back on their training and handled the situation very well, and just ultimately resulted in a couple of arrests instead of something potentially way worse.
Well, we appreciate it as always. Thank you so much for keeping our community safe here in 2025. Brendan, you and the team, take care. We appreciate everything that y'all are doing.
Thank you, Keith.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. And don't go anywhere, because we've got a whole lot more Bayou time when we continue.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.